Hello, welcome to the sideboard here at the StarCityGames.com Open Series in Portland. I'm Nick Miller, alongside Nick Peternell. How you doing, sir?
Doing good.
Pretty good indeed. You've got what we call Mono Blue Devotion, the new version.
Oh yeah.
So your deck is a couple of things I like about your deck. It's aggressive, plays Collected Company, and it's all 4-ofs.
Oh yeah.
Which makes it great for a deck tech. A lot of people, when they saw Shore Crasher Elemental spoiled, they're like, this is the card Mono Blue has needed to come back. As someone who's playing it in X2 at this point, is it?
I think that it does
everything they want.
It does a lot to keep Thassa on. Obviously, the 3 pips is where you want to be, but it also is just a great threat by itself. A lot of people aren't very comfortable playing against the type of threat that Shore Crash Elemental is, being able to flicker itself, pumping it. It makes combat really awkward. It does a lot of things. It's not just the blue pip. It's a respectable creature in its own right, and that's the big thing, you know. Yeah,
we've seen it have the elemental bonus as well, so when you have Master Waves in play, you get to have it even bigger.
Yep, 4/4.
All right, we're going to go down your curve real quick. You've got Hypnotic Siren as your 1-drop, but also being a control magic late in the game, of course. And now your 2-drop suite. You got Frostwalker, Kior's Follower, and the old Stratus Dancer.
Oh yeah.
Which, how many times have you got to do the morph?
Especially against the Esper Dragons deck, you go late. The best thing about it is it's a great top deck. Like this low curve right here is, a lot of them are fine to draw late. Like Hypnotic Siren, you want to see it when it's turn 7 or 8 and you get to take a Rhino or something. Stratus Dancer is perfect, like the perfect top deck against control a lot of times. And so that's what's so good about him. But yeah, Stratus Dancer counters a lot of spells. But it's also fine as just a 2/1 flyer. I mean, a lot of the games, the play pattern is just like one like Hypnotic Siren or just Stratus Dancer, and you kind of delver a little bit. You just want to like protect it or just get ahead on tempo a little bit.
Yeah, I've been super surprised by how good Stratus Dancer has been in just a couple of games I got to play, you know, over the couple weekends. Just deceivingly powerful when you have expensive spells you want to be playing, obviously. Frostwalker, just a 4/1.
It was originally Omen Speaker, and I thought that card specifically does a lot more for the deck than Frostwalker does, but this particular weekend, the fact that Frostwalker can swing into an Ojutai is where you want to be. And against that deck that's just mono tap lands, you know, you want to just get aggressive and hit them for 4. I think I've done like 12 in one game with a Frostwalker that just went uncontested. So it's great to have those kind of starts too, because like as you can see, the power ratio on the lower end of the curve isn't that great except for Frostwalker. And so it's good to have those kind of starts where you just get ahead and stay ahead.
Yeah, in games where you can land a turn 2 Frostwalker against a guy who's just going to play a tap land. It's a lot of damage.
And what you do is you can play this game where Frostwalker's hitting for 4, and eventually they have to tap out to kill it, right, on your turn. And that's when you can start resolving your Thassas. That's when you can start resolving Shore Crasher Elemental with mana up, and that's what it does for the deck.
Speaking of Thassa, there's a card we haven't seen since the last standard format, basically. You know, the Scry ability is still very powerful, but also you get to turn this on, and thanks to Collected Company a lot of times.
Yeah, Collected Company is often 4 mana for 4 or 5 devotion, and that's huge. And so, especially if you can, with the Kior's Follower on turn 3, ideally, you'd hit Thassa and Shore Crasher and be able to untap and just go crazy. Yeah,
that seems insane when you get that kind of curve.
Yeah.
I like Salumgar Sorcerer here, the card that's probably led to the most blowouts, especially with Collected Company.
Exactly.
Regale us with a couple of tales from this card. What are the best cards you've countered with it?
A lot of Ojutais. People don't play around it. Siege Rhinos. It's great for snagging a Siege Rhino, especially on the draw. Those are probably the biggest two. I just played like Esper Dragons and Obs on aggro today.
That's it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, one matchup you're probably looking forward to is Mono Red, as you've got Master Wave main deck, whereas these Esper Dragon decks have them in their boards and such. You just got it straight up here in the main.
Yep. Still a great threat. Shore Crasher Elemental gets the buff for being an Elemental from Master Wave, so that's an interaction. Frostwalker's an Elemental as well, so sometimes you just have a 2-mana 5/2, and that's pretty good.
Not a bad rate.
Exactly. And, with people were trying to do mono blue before, but the threats weren't very good. But the fact that this is a good threat in its own right opens up Master Waves a little bit. You're not just focusing on being able to Master Waves to get your damage in. Like I was playing against Obs on aggro, and it's normally a pretty heavy removal deck, but I was able to stick a Master Waves because they still have to deal with these lower curve threats.
Yeah, they've spent all the resources killing your previous things. So obviously it's just going to make Master better because it's going to live longer.
Yeah, especially with Shore Crasher Elemental because it's such a resilient threat.
All right, take us through the sideboard here. You got a couple Encase in Ice, And I want to talk about Sidisi's Faithful.
The blue yoked ox. We're blocking some. We're blocking some tokens. We're blocking some monastery swift spears. Basically, my game plan against a lot of aggro decks, the lower curve ones, the red ones, is to stay alive until I hit Master Waves. Because at that point, the game's essentially over. I very rarely lose to a red deck when you have a protection from red creature in.
So against mono red, you're basically just playing it as an 0/4. Is there matchups where you have it as the bounce spell?
Against heroic, yeah.
Okay.
A lot of times they aren't expecting an unsummon effect, so you can, if they don't always tap out for it, but they'll use their God's Willings a lot more liberally because they don't expect to have to counter removal spells. And so like you can sometimes get like an 8/8 Hero Viros or something like that and just return it to my hand.
Not bad. Not bad for 1 mana.
Yeah, absolutely.
Aether Spouts for the full blowouts on on defense here.
Yep.
And then a counterspell suite of Negate and Disdainful Stroke against
the Master Waves come out against Abzan Control or Esper Control, and then you just bring in the counter suite.
Wall of Frost.
That one's a little iffy. Honestly, Wall of Frost just. I thought it would be good against Abzan aggro. You want to block a Fleece Main Lion or a Death Dealer, and it holds the ground pretty well. It just doesn't do enough to progress your board. You can't just sit back on defense against a deck that's going to rhino you all over the place. And it could have been maybe Profaner of the Dead to give me a better tokens matchup. Bounce their board. Might have been a better selection, but it's not awful.
Adds a little bit of devotion.
Yeah, it's
worst case scenario.
Right.
All right. So you've played about 7 rounds here. You're 5-2. Any switches you're looking to make, or how's the
when
deck
your deck's
really
all 4 ofs, I think that you've got a formula for it. You could switch out Frostwalker and Omen Speaker. That would probably be the meta choice. Other than that, everything seems pretty solid. You could try like a Dual Lurker, but I feel like Hypnotic Siren's a little bit better.
All right. Well, Nick, thanks for sitting down with me here in the
Absolutely.
sideboard. Awesome
Thanks for having me.
blue-green devotion deck. Stay tuned to StarCityGames.com all weekend long for the action here in Portland.